They said it was just an old hospital room, forgotten, locked away for decades. But when a young nurse stepped inside room 309, something ancient woke up. A whisper, a shadow, a patient who never left. What she saw will haunt you. This is the room they tried to erase. The elevator that should not stop. Marissa had worked the night shift for only 6 days when something strange happened. At 2:13 a.m., she was delivering patient reports to the second floor when the elevator buttons flickered. She pressed 2 again, but the elevator stopped on a floor she had never seen before. The display read 3A, though there was no such floor on the hospital's directory. The button looked old and dusty, like no one had used it in decades. But it lit up as soon as her finger touched it, glowing faintly in the dim overhead light. The doors slid open with a hiss, revealing a silent, abandoned hallway. The air was colder. The lighting was dull green, buzzing faintly overhead. The floor tiles were spotless, but untouched, like no one had walked them in years. Marissa took one hesitant step forward, drawn by something she could not explain, something watching from the shadows. Room 309, the door with no records. As Marissa walked down the eerie hallway, she noticed the doors were labeled with odd numbers, 301, 303, 305, until she reached the very end. There stood Room 309. Unlike the others, its door was slightly open, as if inviting her in. The metal number plate looked tarnished, like it had aged alone. She reached for her hospital-issued tablet to cross-check the room, but room 309 was not listed anywhere. Confused, she gently pushed the door open. Inside, it was perfectly clean. One bed, one chair, one old metal four-stand. The bed was made so tightly it looked untouched. On the wall, deep scratch marks spelled out something chilling. "Do not wake him." A single patient file rested on the side table, no dust. The name on the file was Elias Thorn, admitted in 1961, no discharge date. Marissa's heart sank. None of this should exist, yet it did. The patient who was never discharged. She opened the file with trembling hands. The pages inside were yellowed and brittle, but the ink remained dark and clear. Elias Thorn, born 1927, admitted June 14, 1961. Diagnosis: severe delusions, violent episodes, observation required. Marissa's breath caught when she turned the page. There was a photo stapled to it, black and white, of a man sitting up in the very same hospital bed. His eyes stared straight into the camera, wide open, lifeless, but aware, as if he knew someone would be looking at him even decades later. There were no other records, no discharge summary, no time of death, just a final note scribbled in different handwriting. Still here. The machines in the room weren't plugged in, yet their monitors flickered. Something unseen moved near the curtain. Marissa turned quickly, but no one was there. Or maybe someone always had been. The whisper beneath the machines. Marissa told herself not to return, but some places call you back, not with words, but with silence too deep to ignore. The next night, she took the same elevator. This time, the 3A button lit up before she touched it, as if waiting for her again. Room 309's door was wider now. The bed was still made, the air colder. She stood in the doorway, unable to move. Then, out of nowhere, the heart monitor lit up. Beep, beep, steady and slow, though no patient was there. And then, from behind the privacy curtain, came a faint voice, whispery, dry, saying her name, Marissa. She froze, Her knees nearly gave out. No one had followed her. No one knew she was here. And yet, the whisper continued, gentle and insistent. "You opened it," it said, and then again, with more urgency, "Do not leave me again." The night shift, nurse who vanished. The next morning, Marissa couldn't keep it in. She approached her supervisor and asked quietly, "What's on level 3A?" The woman went pale. She stared at Marissa like she had spoken a forbidden word. "That floor was shut down after a fire. Back in the 60s, she said slowly. "There's no access anymore, no power, no records." Marissa mentioned the patient's name, Elias Thorn. The supervisor's hands began to tremble. "That's not a patient," she whispered. "Elias was a nurse, a young man who vanished in 1961, the night he filed a complaint about a room that didn't exist. Room 309, Marissa's blood ran cold. They never found his body, only his name, scratched into the inside of a locked door. The same message you saw." And then the supervisor looked at her with terrified eyes and said, "If you open that door, he knows you now." The shadows knew her face. That night, Marissa stayed in her apartment, trying to convince herself it was just exhaustion, just a vivid dream caused by too many overnight shifts. But sleep did not come. At 3:09 a.m., her hallway light flickered, then the bathroom door creaked open on its own. She walked over slowly, heart pounding, and caught a glimpse of the mirror. Behind her reflection stood a man, pale, wearing a nurse's uniform from decades ago. His eyes were the same as the photo, Elias Thorn. She spun around. No one was there. But when she looked back at the mirror, condensation from the running tap had formed 4 chilling words across the glass. "You opened the door." Her knees buckled. She wiped the mirror in panic, but the message remained. Her apartment, once warm and safe, now felt like an extension of that forgotten room. And somehow, he had followed her home. The hospital tries to hide it. Desperate, Marissa returned to the hospital to prove it was real, but the elevator no longer had a 3A button. When she asked the janitor, he shook his head. "Miss, there is no level 3A. There never was." She ran to the archives, typed Elias Thorn's name. Nothing. Not a single record, not even the photo. The patient file she had taken from room 309 now held only blank pages, brittle and yellow, but empty. She flipped to the last one, and there, in faded red ink, was a single word: "Stay." Her hand shook as the room around her grew cold. Then the lights flickered. The hospital intercom crackled to life. No music, no announcements, just a voice whispering, "Room 309 is ready." She dropped the file and ran. But even as she left the building, she knew deep down, some doors do not close, not truly, not when they have chosen you. Room 309 waits for you too. Marissa moved cities the following week. She left the hospital, changed her phone number, deleted her accounts, anything to feel invisible again. For a while, it worked. No whispers, no reflections, no flickering lights at night. She even started to believe it was all just her mind, unraveling under pressure. Until last Tuesday, a plain white envelope arrived at her new apartment. No return address. Inside, a single photo. It was the hallway, that hallway. Dim green lights, worn floor tiles, and at the end, the door marked 309, slightly open. On the back of the photo, in handwriting she recognized as her own, were 4 words: "See you very soon." Marissa dropped the photo and backed away. Her phone buzzed. One new voicemail. No caller ID. She pressed play. There was silence, Then a soft voice she had not heard in weeks. Elias Thorn. Calm, steady. You should not have left me. Now, each night at 3:09 a.m., she hears footsteps in the hallway outside her apartment. Slow, measured, closer. Room 309 is no longer in the hospital. It is anywhere she goes. And if you are hearing this story, it might be looking for you next. You may think this is just a story, just another hospital tale. But tonight, if you hear a knock at 3:09 a.m., do not answer, do not listen, and whatever you do, never open the door. Because once room 309 finds you, it never lets go, not even in death.